Ta-da! We are live.
Hello.
Hello, my lovely friends. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am joined by these lovely guests and one more that will be joining us shortly as soon as some internet issues get resolved. That's the word. So, real quick, we're here for the June Curious Minds Book Club, where we are talking about good feminism and such a fun age. And we'll get into that in a minute. Would my co-hosts like to introduce themselves?
Go ahead first, Sarah.
Sarah, go first because you've done this. You've been here before.
Okay, hello. My name is Sarah. If you don't know, I run Novel Serendipity, my booktube. You can also probably search that name on Twitter and find me there. I came up with this book club idea and I harassed Margaret to join me and she said yes. So
I think it literally was, I have this idea. Would you like to join? And then I said, hey, that's a good idea.
So yeah, we're here to talk about fiction and nonfiction together in a fun and interesting way to also get us to read more of that genre that we usually put off and educate ourselves. So here we are. That is me.
Yes. Okay. And we've got Noria. Hi, Noria.
Yay! Hi.
Hi everybody. Sorry, it's been raining all day. The internet is rightfully protesting, and I think that
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying that I think that the only way in which you'll be able to hear me at all today would be if my camera is off, because I don't know what is happening right now.
And that is perfectly fine. It was storming last night, and I was so worried the internet would be not existent when I woke up. So I get it. So, all right. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi. I have a little lap buddy here. You might hear some noise. He's getting fussy.
Right on cue.
Yeah. My name is Lauren. I run the Novelush on BookTube, if you can call it running, because right now it's not doing anything. But I am starting that back up soon.
Yay! Hooray! And then Noria, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your channel?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Noria, and I also have. Oh, he sounds adorable.
Sorry.
And I also have and I also have a booktube channel. Although technically I have been reading outside of what I usually read on my channel. Not like I don't read it. I just often don't read it on my channel, but it's been fun.
Okay, nice.
And I will plug in, everybody, watch One Piece. Sarah, this is to you. Thank you.
Hashtag triggered.
Oh my God, Noria, you sound like my brother. He's been trying for years.
We will succeed.
I started reading the manga and got pretty far into it, and then stopped reading manga altogether, and now it's just too much. I'm like,
Yeah.
Margaret.
I just started it when I was pregnant. I think I'm literally only 10 episodes in it. And then every time I pull it back up, the episode list is there. And I'm like, oh my God.
oh, dear God.
Oh, Noria, you have other people to harass.
I know. I've already promised I'm going to body watch it with Lauren, so she knows. She knows. I'm just
Lauren, she's coming for you.
Oh God.
Brace yourself.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
I used to watch it when I was a kid, but it was like the weird English, like really truncated version. Because children's broadcasting here is weird.
Yeah. You're the one that they censored Sanji smoking, and then they kept putting a lollipop in his hands in a very weird way.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's really easy to get me on a tangent. But as it was mentioned before, we have a couple of books to talk about. I'm just checking everyone has read and completed this. I don't have to worry about spoiling anything with this one.
Nope.
Perfect. So I want to let's start out with hood feminism, just kind of talking about that one, and then we'll segue that one into Such a Fun Age, because I think there's a lot
Fun age.
that people can learn from the nonfiction that informs the fiction book. So let's go to, what did we all think of hood feminism, like as a whole, as a work? Did we have?
I thought it was just, I loved her writing.
Yeah.
Where she's like, we're now going to basically tell our story and educate those around us without, like, I thought it was really refreshing that she didn't need to use a filter of any kind.
Yeah.
And like even some other books like this that I have read, they have had to use like a filter, or maybe they felt more comfortable using a filter of some kind. And she didn't feel like she needed to. She felt comfortable just saying what she needed to say. And I like that it was broken up into different, what I guess you could call issues for Black women in America, or Black women in general. And female presenting individuals. And I really liked it. It was like, okay, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about this. And it was really broken down into a really easy to understand way for maybe people that don't necessarily recognize what's going on around them. So that was my overall thought.
Okay. Yeah. So does anyone else, any of you three, follow Mickey on Twitter at all?
Twitter, yes.
She's
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very used to the no filter.
No, this was exactly, like, I knew quite a bit of how it was going to sound going into it, because I've been following her since before the book was published.
I didn't follow her until I read the book, and then I was like, where are you on social media? And then there's there. I was like, okay, cool.
She's
I
so
like
good.
this.
She does a really good job of breaking things down in a way that is like telling you like it is, but also making it very digestible, if that makes sense. Like, she knows what to hit to make sure her audience understands her point. I really like the fact that this is not about solutions. It's about saying, these are the problems. This is how we tend to approach it, or how white feminists tend to approach it. And this is what they're ignoring. And I liked the fact that she's like, this is what needs to be the focus right now. You need to sit down and figure out what the issue is before you stick your foot in and go, hey, this is how we should take care of it, because you're not listening to the people who need feminism the most, basically. So
I also think that, like, the book made me think of another nonfiction I'd read like a couple of years ago, Eloquent Rage. In fact, she actually used that exact term. And I was just like, yeah, that's it just captures it so perfectly well, right? And I think that a lot of times, especially feminism, because, even in the book, she talks about the fact that, diverse experiences have to be brought into your feminism for it to matter. It has to matter to everybody. It cannot just serve one particular group, because eventually everything is going to come crumbling down. And, all I was just thinking about was the fact that there's this sense of, you need to be able to perform in a particular way that is very acceptable to, white-centered spaces, or for those of us from the global south, global northern centered spaces. And I really like the fact that, she was like, nah, somebody needs to be able to say the uncomfortable truths, right? Yeah. Somebody needs to be present without any filters. And I really, really responded with the part, like, I resonated with the part where she mentioned that, there's I'm going to serve this truth to you in a nice, sweet, just digestible manner approach to feminism, right? And that she is the one that they call for the big guns, when it is that I've been telling you this so nicely, so kindly, you're still not really listening to me, then I bring it to someone who would.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is such a good point, because I love that last chapter when she's talking about sometimes anger is what gets things done. It's not polite. It's anger that gets things done.
I resonate with that a lot, because especially now with healthcare, it's just an utter pain to get people to listen to you. Everybody is more concerned with whether or not your tone is palatable, or if you're being nice, you're being kind, rather than focus on the fact that, hey, I said you can't do X, Y, and Z. You're going to make other people get sick, or you're going to risk yourself getting sick, or your kid needs to do this. And they're more concerned with I don't like the way you said that. Sorry, but it doesn't change what I said.
Yeah. No, and that's something I think is easier for our generation to sometimes get than it is for our parents' generation, because I still find myself having to explain to my parents, like, stop listening to the tone, listen to the message.
Yeah.
Like, they were watching a video that they finally let me recommend some YouTubers to them. And they were watching a video and they were getting caught up in the metaphor that he was using, when I'm like, no, listen to what he's saying. The metaphor, okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. The situation could have been handled. Listen to what he's saying. Don't get caught up on what the metaphor is. So, I gave myself a note about, like, it's talk. Noria's internet must have gone out. So one of the things that I think a lot of what she talks about in the book is, what should the goal of feminism be, contrasted to, I think, what white feminism's goal is. And kind of, I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation about what we all thought the goal of feminism is and should be. I think she covers it pretty well in the book, which I was really pleased with.
I think I'm trying to engage filter here.
I think I will say, I don't mind being made uncomfortable. I know, Sarah, I don't think you mind it. No. If anybody on my channel has a problem with it, they can go. The door's that way.
Say what you need to say, Lord. Like the song says, say what you need to say.
So, yeah.
I think she touched on a lot of reasons why I don't like labels. Like, I don't like to say I am a feminist, or I'm this, or I'm that, because when you say that, one, you get grouped in with a certain group of people, and then right now, that group does mostly look like young or middle-aged white women.
Yeah.
There are certain expectations that come with your behavior, your thought process, the type of person that you are when you say you're a feminist. So I don't like labels, and I like that she said that. I like that she touched on the fact that, yes, feminism looks this way, but it looks this way mostly for white women. Like, feminism needs to look this way. You need to bring in queer people, disabled people. You need to bring in Black people, brown people, and not just say, here's my little buddy. See, here's proof. Like, you need to listen to what those people are saying, because it's one thing for me to say, I have all these Indigenous friends and Asian friends who are struggling with this, and this is what I think. It's not about what I think. It's about me kicking open that door so they can come in and say what they need for themselves. Because who's going to know better than them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think one of the main problems with feminism right now is that it looks so different for so many people, but only the white voices are being heard. And that they don't speak for everyone. And like near the beginning of the book, it's one of my highlights where white feminism tends to forget.
Sorry, everybody. My internet acted up. Sorry.
You're good.
We assumed.
I will add you back as many times as we need to, Noria. We can make this work.
We can make this work.
So, okay, Sarah, your thought?
But yeah, well, like the quote, white feminism tends to forget that the movement that claims to be for all women has to engage with the obstacles women who are not white face, like what they have to struggle with being women of color versus just what white women need.
Yeah.
and that it's often either forgotten or just blatantly ignored. And I'm
Right.
just, I think that's one of like the main obstacles I think feminism as a whole is having right now, or has always had,
Mhm.
where it is like Lauren said, it's that white voice that's kind of
Yeah.
dominating everyone,
Yeah.
and so it does look different for everyone. And I think
Right.
that's just adding, it's just like dogpiling onto the issue at hand.
Right.
Yeah, I think white feminism's focus is about privilege. I think she makes that point so well, that like white women are wanting the same powers as white men. They're not actually interested in meeting people's needs. And I think that's like, that is a pervasive issue. Specifically, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but specifically in the US, that is such a pervasive issue that I see
Mhm.
throughout all of politics. I see it when it comes to class, I see it when it comes to race, when it comes to gender, when it comes to sexuality, that like you're surviving, why are you complaining, is what you hear
Right.
so often. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, but like survival is not the end all be all of the human existence.
No.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, she
People are meant to.
mentions,
Yeah, people are meant to thrive. People are meant to. People
yeah,
are meant to flourish.
Yes.
You know, and like I remember, like not I remember, but like when I was reading the part when she was talking about poverty,
Mhm.
you know, and there was when she was telling her story about her being, you know, at the grocery store, and then she saw somebody she did not recognize who spoke to her about getting food, you know, for herself and her family, and then she, you know, she paid for her, took it off her mind until, you know, she's at the grocery store, someone is offering to pay for hers, she's like fighting back, trying to, you know, push it away, and it's like, nah, you did this to me. You know, there was the part where she said she had just assumed that the
Mhm.
woman, like who was her neighbor, you know, was on food stamps, and she said something.
no, I remember exactly which one you're talking about.
Well, she said something along the lines of, I remember how hard it is to be at the
How
end of
it
the
is to
month
be
and your
on food.
stamps have run out.
yeah.
Yeah. That was, it's interesting how having money affects the way that you see people who do not sometimes.
Mhm.
So it's so little backstory. My father sells Medicare. He's bringing me in to help with that. And we were talking with a patient who's very well off. He's a doctor. And it was funny because he started talking about, well, because you make so much, your copay for Medicare, because Part A is free, Part B, you do have a copay, is going to be this much because you, and he called it a success penalty. And I was like, that's like, I couldn't say it in the moment. I'm like, that's not a success penalty. That's, the government recognizes that you do not need your healthcare subsidized in the way that someone who does not make your income needs.
Yeah.
The government is subsidizing your healthcare. The actual fair thing based on this man's income would be to say, nope, you're on your own. You need to, you know, get your own private healthcare. But
Right.
they don't. So it's wild how people can complain about like, oh, we're not going to have Medicare, we're not going to have Social Security, and then still vote for policies that are taking that away from people and from people who actually need it. So, yeah.
It's like in when she mentioned how you could have Trump running for president after he had said things like about grabbing women inappropriately and this, that, and the other, and yet
Yeah.
53%. 53%. That is insane to me.
So embarrassed.
No, the embarrassing part, like, there are women who are assault victims that voted for
Yes.
Trump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because and I know one. And that's just wild to me that you can be like, no, I mean, to some extent I can understand, like, no, this person, I can't, like, I don't like them, but I'm going to vote against them because they are the lesser of two evils. That's how I've been voting for years at this point. But at the
Preach.
same time, I'm looking at it going, okay, but there was one issue over here that I
And
think
there's
I disagree
several
with.
on the other
And there's
side.
several over here that I'm like,
Yeah.
At the end
Yes.
of the day, to me, it was like, no, LGBT rights and social justice are more important than unborn children,
Yes.
quote unquote.
But then you also have to look at, you know, all the rest of it. And so, especially being Black, being brown, being female, being marginalized in XYZ number of ways, like you get to learn. I mean, you know anyway, but you assume, but you get to learn really and truly like what a lot of people's underlying reasons were for that choice in the first place. And you look at all the racist things he has done and said, and how much support he continued to get after that. But any president before him, Obama on backwards, not just Obama, any little slight thing that the president did, their spouse did, their children did, it was an immediate, oh, hell no, what the fuck, he's got to get out of here. But then you have this guy who is
It was weird. Like the neighborhood I shouldn't say lived. I'm going back. I lived there. In the United States, it's predominantly not just Black individuals, just people of color, but every lawn had a Trump sign in it. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, my neighbors are people of color. Like more than 50% of my neighbors are people of color.
Yeah.
But all of the lawns had like those little picket sign things, and it was like vote for Trump and all of this. And I was like, I literally just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was like, I don't understand, because like I'm over here and I feel personally attacked by what he says about women, but he's not only saying stuff about women. He's saying stuff about every marginalized everyone. And so I was like, if I have a problem with this, like I have neighbors who are women, they're women of color, like Black women, and like women or just individuals that are from just a different marginalized group, but all the lawn signs were Trump.
Like,
I just couldn't. I was like, I'm not close enough to any of my neighbors to be like, what's your justification for this? But like,
well, I think too, it's because like if you look within like how everything is intersectional, there's also like tiers, and so many people are used to being treated shitty that they're like, oh, I may be gay, but at least I'm not Black and gay, or oh, I may be, you know,
like a combination kind of thing,
right? It's like there's some kind of way they're fighting to not be like all the way at the bottom of the list, and so it's like, when he ran for president, like all of that shit from other people came out of the woodworks. And I had coworkers at the time who didn't understand why me and some of my friends were like, oh fuck, this is gonna be awful. So it was like, what was it? He can't actually do the majority of this stuff. I was like, that's not the point. He's making it okay for everybody else to behave in the way they want to behave. And then look what the fuck happened right after that. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I think I also read somewhere along the fact that people also vote.
Oh no, Noria.
I'm trying to say.
Oh, there. Oh, damn.
Every time she wants to say something.
I know exactly which point Noria is starting to make, though, because like that, I was about to say that too. But that people will vote against their own interests, and I think
which astounds me.
Yeah, and I have a lot of opinions. Noria, do we have you back? Oh no.
We're protesting internet.
Really?
The internet doesn't. The internet is not working with us today.
It doesn't agree with us.
And I think, I mean, my point is, I think a lot of it goes back to the absolute just hold that evangelicalism and Christianity has. Because a lot of the people that I see that are voting against their interests are doing so because they are terrified of what happens if their conservative family, friends, church finds out. Like they've been we made politics a moral issue here, where like if you vote for a Democrat, you are no longer a Christian. And like that's not how that works.
I could see that with like very conservative and with white families or very conservative white families, but it baffles me when it comes to, God, I hate bringing this idiot up, but Look like Kanye West. He doesn't have that issue. He doesn't have those concerns. And yet he's walking around with that freaking stupid hat on. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Really?
So, okay. Noria, I think I can hear the rain in the background. So do we have you back? Possibly. That might be someone's fan.
Aww.
Oh gosh. Noria, do you want to type somewhere? We can relay we can be your
Yes,
voice.
the comments are always there. If you do it in the public stream, I can always, that is weird because I can hear maybe it's static that I'm hearing.
I don't know, but it was hers because it stopped.
Because I can hear her.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked, it was really interesting because my first thought when I looked over a lot of the things, I was, she hasn't covered LGBT issues. And then she like just makes such a good case of the fact that they are throughout all of this because all of this affects it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Yeah, I can hear you again.
Oh my gosh, Noria, hurry up and say what you need to say.
Yes, no.
Spit it out.
I was saying that people often vote along their self-interest, like lines that define exactly the particular bubble within which they exist. So, for example, yes, I'm Black, and I'm like, oh, you know, Trump is clearly anti-Black, but also I have classist leanings. I'm all concerned about my money and exactly what it is that this man is promising, you know. So I'm going to vote along that lines because that is what serves me in my own self-interest. And I think that, you know, a lot of the times, and that is why when Nikki mentioned the fact that even across these different subcategories, you know, everybody votes, like everybody has their own specific you know, inclinations or needs or things that, you know, serve them best. And you need to keep that in mind when it is that you're speaking to a group that is not a monolith. Because I think when people talk about these issues, they do not really realize just how far it goes, you know, like she said. So don't think that, oh, because, you know, they're all that, oh my God, which is why people will be surprised that 57% of white women voted for Trump, right? Because they're like, oh my God, how could you? This man talked about, you know, inappropriate things and clearly sexual assault. But yes, when you now consider the fact that this group of people are not a monolith, everybody has their own interests and they are just focused on exactly at what point, whatever it is that is saying, you know, appeals to them and will make their life better in that regard. And that is how they vote. It's very sad.
It's like I'm more worried about my tax returns than about you know being viewed as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it often comes down to the money aspect. So, and when you think about who, especially in America, where
money is power,
money and how money is linked to who can and cannot vote, or who can and cannot like realistically vote. Like, because that was like one of the whole parts of the voting the past like at least 2 to 3 elections was how people without money, how much more difficult it is for them to vote versus people with money.
And also what policies they'd be affected by in the end.
Exactly.
They could be a queer person, an African American person, or whatever, but they won't be affected on the same level by the policies that have like racism at its core because they have, you know, the funds to be basically insulated from all of that.
Kind of like in a little protective bubble per se.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you, but thank you.
I have thoughts.
And so many of those issues, like when you try to bring up things like gerrymandering and how polls end up being mostly located in predominantly white areas or accessible there, they go, but that's not about race. And it's like, but if you have a population that is dependent on public transport, and they all kind of fit into one, and then you have this population that has freaking cars, like 3 of them in their driveway, and they all fit in. Maybe it is.
Maybe it is. I mean, it always comes back to the money. At least in the United States, it always comes back to the money. But
It also comes back. It
yeah.
also comes back to the money here as well. I think
Mhm.
a lot of the times people forget just how far money goes, especially with elections, with campaigning. You
Yeah.
know, like my country just held their primaries, and you had political parties saying that, oh, you have to drop 100 million naira for you to pick up a nomination form to run for presidency. And I'm
Jesus
like,
Christ.
where are you getting that money? Like, this is you setting this money aflame with the expectation that when you get in, you're just going to be focused on corrupt practices that would recoup you your interest, because there is absolutely no way anybody who worked for their money, who understands the value and who is coming to bring something, would go into this with
Yeah.
No.
It's a conspiracy.
It is. They're like, no, Noria's getting too real right now. We gotta cut off Noria's internet again. But that is the truth. It's ridiculous that you have to have a certain amount of donations and how much money is involved in politics. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, look at how Trump was able to run in the first place. What political background did he have before that?
none.
What
Like,
political background did he have during and after that?
and he
Fair.
specifically, there are interviews where he says he specifically went Republican because the Republicans are dumb enough to vote for him. And I'm just like,
I mean, but Noria makes a really good point.
yeah.
Whenever she returns, that like when if you're running for something like president or
Mhm.
the equivalent wherever you are, like when it starts with money, before anything even starts, like when
It's
it starts
fucked.
with money, like
It's
you're
fucked.
already off to just a really just
Yeah.
horrible and corrupt. Like you can only go in one direction after this.
Mhm.
Like there's
Yeah,
only
and
one direction you can go.
it's been proven that the more money you get, the more you are like the more mentally you want to hold on to that money.
It's
So
almost
in
like
that
being
case,
groomed by money.
yeah,
Yeah,
in that
gross.
case, when you have it, suddenly it's like, well, I can't do this because what if I lose? Because money is power, money is protection to a lot of people, especially in a late capitalist society. So, like, it's one of those things that like frustrates me, but at the same time, I can understand thought processes. They're wrong,
Yeah.
but I understand.
Well, especially to marginalized people too, because then she talked about what was it? Being food insecure. Like those are the kind of things you don't have to worry about anymore once you make it to a certain tax
level.
bracket. Yeah. So then you're like, well, if I got to vote for this idiot, or if I have to surround myself by these kind of people to avoid having to ever again be in a situation where I can't pay for my groceries or where I have to live in a food desert or what have you, then, well, that's a lesser for me, my personal lesser of two evils.
Yeah, but then you end up voting for somebody who's taking away SNAP or WIC benefits. And it's like.
But again, that's why I said like they're insulated at that point. So it's like, yeah, they'll take it away, but it's not going to mess up my food.
It's not going to mess me up. I'll be fine.
No.
And I'm really glad she brought that aspect up, because we see that in such a fun age. We see what money can do to even
the book stressed me the hell out.
The people, I'm just like, who? No. As I was reading that book, I was like messaging Margaret, and I was like,
fuck it.
That's like I'm rereading, but I get you.
I read it the first time like couple years ago when I did not know nearly as much, and so there was a part of me that was like, oh, maybe she'll do the right thing, and then the book happened, and I'm like, so I'm going into this second one going, oh, this fucking woman, just mad from the minute she's on the page,
and the people around her, like I was just.
I was like immediately as soon as we started, like every like couple of sentences, I was texting Noria like, "What the fuck?"
So many of my notes, like I have almost zero notes on Amira's chapter, except like I like the fact that she's 25 and doesn't know what's going on. I'm like, I'm 35 almost and don't know what's going on, Amira. I'm
right. That was exactly what we said. We said people stay changing their life goals in their 40s. You have people who explore new things that they want to explore in their 60s. How is
Damn it.
Whenever Noria has a good point, here we are. But
I'm sorry. Is the internet tone policing Noria?
It is, most definitely.
Oh my god.
So, anyways, let's fully move into such a fun age because
I just thought it was a really good transition.
yeah,
transition
that
point.
is. And a lot of what is going on with her is healthcare and food and
food
housing
and
insecurity. That's her main issue. And then we have Alex, who is on the other side, just not dealing with any of that. And
there was a point in this book. I'm not shitting you. I googled is such a fun age LGBTQ plus because she is oddly obsessed. I was like, are they gonna like be together? Like, where is this book going? Because
So
she was
many-
like, I'm so jealous, and I was like, jealous of what? That she has a friend? Like, I'm confused. Like, do you want to bed her? Like, what is happening right now?
I'm not gonna lie, I could not even get to the end of that book. And it wasn't that I didn't have time. I was just like, you know what? My brain doesn't deserve this kind of torture.
Oh my god.
I can't fucking do it to myself.
I got to the end and my first thing was, Margaret, what the hell? Like what did I just read? What? But like, it's a realistic story though, and that's the sad thing. I was like, this fucking happens to people.
But I think that's why so many people liked it. But I think maybe for me, why I didn't like it, and I guess I'll pull the black woman card. As a black woman, the reason I didn't like it is because yes, these things happen. I just feel like it was very pared down and one-dimensional and simple, and it wasn't executed well. So it was just like, I don't know. It just bugged me.
Yeah.
They felt like caricatures, right?
Yes.
Like she was telling stories with stereotypes in mind, and then she just put their names so that they can fit into.
Yeah.
And then with like, was it Alex, as they said in the audiobook, I think we got such like a long backstory from her at first. And then when they went over Amira's backstory, it was like poo-poo. Anyway, back to the present.
Yeah, no. I mean, Alex bugged me because I know people who have like, it's all of those beliefs in one person, but like I know people who feel that way, who are like, well, I believe racism is wrong, so that's all the work I need to do.
Yeah.
And it was just,
I don't need to do the work because clearly they can't be talking about me because I'm not racist.
I am not, and it's like, it's possible to be racist even though you think you're not.
Oh yeah, passive racism.
Like that's not on you to call.
Yeah.
So.
And she showed like the minute she made that comment after, she was doing the flashback to that night and exactly how it all played out and what led to it. Her husband, casually being all like, well, I hope that young man asked that girl's father for permission, blah, blah, blah. And then, he goes all like, oh, everybody's saying that's racist. And she tells him, no, it's not racist. And I'm like, how would you know? You've been racist throughout this entire book.
It's not racist.
Because it was so, like, I'm like, of all the people to be able to tell that, it's not you, especially because that is racist. The microaggression of not asking, of not making that comment to all the other people that came before the boy. Why that boy? Why that moment? But like, like we established from with feminism, when it is that, your privilege creates that cocoon for you, that safety net, that blanket, that protective device. This is not your experience, and so it's more difficult for you to navigate it. But and I think that's the reason why I was so frustrated with not the book, but the character in the book, which some might say that then that means that she wrote a pretty good book, because all I'm thinking is, of course, you who are at the moment, you're this white feminist concerned about your issue. Your great stand was, breastfeeding your kid in public, and not like that is bad, but that seems to be the center of, where your feminism stops and starts. you know, and everything else. And I'm just
I
like,
like how everybody, all four
this
screens are like.
experience, you don't know.
Okay, so I rolled my eyes so hard when they brought that up that they got stuck in the back of my fucking head. Now, mind you,
Go.
I'm actively breastfeeding right now. Like, not literally actively right now. It's like I breastfeed my kid. And like, if I'm out in public and he's hungry, I give no fucks. My kid's hungry. But don't act like that is the pinnacle.
It's not the same situation either.
No.
Her child is 2. Briar asked for fucking Cheerios. She did not ask to be. She did not ask to be her mom's feminism card.
It just the minute we found out that name was Alex. Like, it's all performative. Like, that was when it clicked. Because, like, which was the reason why when we got that final reveal about the letter, I was not surprised. Because I was like, this woman seems to thrive off the living this grand drama in her head, which then translates to benefits for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you know, when we have that glimpse, I'm like, see, because like it served you well since you left high school. You picked.
I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
So when they started like the success from like the letter writing, and I'm like,
yeah, she got that
white lady asked for stuff and she got what she wanted, and now it's like, oh wow, holy fuck. It's like,
well, where is it? Okay, because like that's her definition of feminism. Alex's definition of feminism is being able to ask nicely for things and getting what you want.
Yes.
And I'm just like, but on the
meanwhile,
contrary,
everybody that exists outside of that bubble of being white and female is like, bitch, that don't work.
And she was already made of money. Like, poor people can't do that. And like sure, we might get some handouts, I suppose, but like we couldn't make a business out of it.
But also, like, didn't a couple of them, she said, started from like product reviews, like they were bad products, and she wrote a letter, so they sent her like the product and featured her and whatever, and it started from there. So it's like, so you got rewarded for being a Karen. Just say it.
Yeah. It's funny because her definition of feminism does not even include all white women. No. Because one of the interesting points that was in this was that like it's a specific type of feminism each different person has. And she is so condescending to people who do not have her specific brand of white. It's like, oh, all the white feminists hate each other. That's actually in fact true.
What about her friends when she first called? When she first called her friends, like the thing that really majorly, well, that's not the first thing. It's like the 8th thing that really majorly pissed me off with this book. But she called her friends, and when she told them, you know, basically my husband said something that was like high-key racist on national TV, and they're like, oh, poo, they'll forget about it a little bit. Girl, did you get fat? I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I was so mad.
I just forgot about the fat phobia throughout this entire book.
The fat phobia. Oh my God.
It was so prominent throughout the entire book.
Even like at the very end, it still was on her mind.
When he showed up, she's like, my 8 pounds. I'm like, bitch, we don't fucking care about your 8 fucking pounds, and neither does he. Like,
clearly not. Please do not remind me. Like that entire journey.
Lauren reminded me, so I'm reminding everyone else.
I was screaming that, please, God, do not do this. She left her child at home, had her ex-boyfriend, like, oh no, oh my God.
She left her small 2-year-old at home.
Alex was just
alone.
I mean, but was that surprising though? Because like all the way through the book, like you have the babysitter for the small baby, or no, for the 2-year-old.
I wouldn't have been surprised if it was Briar.
She did not even think about anything.
But it was her favorite she left at home. That's what surprised me.
Her easy baby. I need a
No, she
babysitter
left
for the
them
2-year-old, and I'll take the little one with me to
she
go fuck
left
off in the
them
park and read
both
magazines.
there. She
I
just like no, it was her favorite. She left because she had Brian. Wait, do you know? It was
Nuri's like, I have no words.
well, it's wild because I actually like reading this the second time. There are parts of it that I sat with both with Amira and with Briar and was going, are they low-key neurodivergent? Because some of what Briar was doing, obviously, I'm like, this could be age appropriate. This could be a 3-year-old. But some of it, I'm like, this could be hyper focus. This could be a special interest. And I'm just sitting there going,
No, the
Yeah.
coffee smelling
So much
and the
sense.
fish, like the hyper focus,
the
hyper like
nuts.
Yeah.
the
yeah.
nuts. Yeah.
There were like ways, even like right at the very beginning, that she jumped in and out of being like age appropriate or
Mhm.
being more childish than I think she would be, or being like very
Yeah.
adult. So I don't know if that was on purpose. or-
Okay.
I
So
think
did
it
look
was
this
on
up.
purpose.
I'm not into. I don't think Kylie Reed has kids, and there are a couple of places that I feel you can tell.
I was gonna say that, but I thought I would sound like an asshole if I said that.
No, I don't know for sure, but like especially when she's talking about that breastfeeding scene and getting engorged. I'm like, this is 2 years out. She's already several months pregnant with her other child. She is not going to be having that discomfort from what I could find on the internet, because getting pregnant while you're breastfeeding actually decreases your milk supply.
Yeah.
And from what I know from my friends talking about it, like the engorgement is a problem at the beginning, but then you adjust and it's not as bad as your child starts to get older and is no longer fully like if Briar was still fully depending on her, that would be one thing. But this child, like it's more about her. She's
Yeah,
like,
I
I'm
think-
doing child-led breastfeeding. But then when her child asks for Cheerios, she's like, no, here's a boob. I'm just
Yeah. So it like with engorgement in breastfeeding, like it happens initially, like when your milk first comes in, and then the only time it would happen like towards the end is when you're weaning your kid off of it, because you're not getting rid of all of that. But it again though, like it could be not having kids, but you know, Google is a thing.
no, and I know like half of what I know is because I Googled for fan fiction, so I could write good fan fiction. So, what else is there? Is there anything we want to talk about with Amira? Because I know, like we talked about, like she's got a lot of class stuff that is going on. I kind of think she might have ADHD as someone who is following that diagnosis themselves. So that might be me, but it also is a common, like her experience is common in women with ADHD.
Sorry, we're having a minor.
We're having a moment.
Yes.
Determine exactly.
I'm just gonna mute for a little bit.
Okay, that's fine. It was just interesting to see. One of the things I think this does really well, at least from Amira's point of view, is showing the kinds of things that she had to make a choice between: do I say something about this, or do I let it go?
I have a highlight. Oh, what is it? Shit. Oh, it was when they were interviewing her at the very end, like for the news, whatever. And one of the questions they asked her, and I was like, "Are you really asking her this question right now?" But of course they were, because they were all trying to like, we'll put in your book. We'll put your book
trying
out.
to get their white lady ally points.
And we'll your husband's name will be cleared. It's fine. But they asked her, do you feel that justice needs to be served in terminating the security guard's position? And it was just like, why are you? One, that's
Why
not
are you asking
justice. That's not, she just wants to go to the fucking grocery store without being harassed. Like, that's not a question that you should be asking the person who was harassed to begin with, because that's not her job. That's not her job.
Which I think was used to further drive that parallel, because that was what Alex wanted and that was what Kelly wanted. both of them
Mhm.
seem to want, they both wanted her to, like, sue the grocery store and, get the security guy fired so that they can sit. And I interpreted it as so that they could both sit in this victory of, yes, justice has been served. And I'm like, this is a commentary on,
Yeah.
Amira's life, her existence, outside of the bubble that you both
Mhm.
sit in your whiteness. And it
Yeah.
just, I think, I look at both of them as the two ends of, white allyship,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
exactly how it can be detrimental to,
Yep.
the allies that they seemingly are trying to ease their way, because it was just
Yeah.
a mess. It
Yeah.
was just a mess.
Neither one of them at all, at any point, asked Amira what she wanted.
Nope.
No.
Neither one.
But
Nope.
they were the epitome of the most performative of white people when it comes to things like that. Because if you look at the people who act up and flip the fuck out in Targets or in like Sam's Club or whatever the fuck, for not like the one I'm thinking of specifically, Sam's Club lady tripped out because the employee was trying to make her wear a mask, or people who go off in Starbucks for whatever reason, like what is their end goal at the end of, they almost all inevitably would say, "Oh, you're gonna get fired," or "I'll have your job for the," or whatever the fuck. Like to them, that is like the worst.
That's justice
that they
for
can-
them. They feel
right.
like for
That's
them,
like the
that's
peak
justice.
at that moment. So they think that like
You make me
on the other
uncomfortable.
side of them,
What does
that's
justice
going
look
to
like
help
for
me
me?
out. This guy
Yeah.
getting fired is not going to help me. Like there's a bigger
Yeah.
issue at hand. Like you can get fired,
Yeah.
it's not going to do shit.
Amira was like, no, that's not what I
Slam.
want.
They somebody was saying this about the Me Too movement, but it applies here, I think, as well. They wanted the one person that would be kind of like that. We take care of him, and then racism is solved, instead of looking at it as a systemic issue.
No, they wanted
Yeah,
a scapegoat, so for their conscience, so they can be like, "This
Yeah.
was the racist
I've
person.
done my
I got
part.
them fired.
I
Good."
got them fired. I helped Amira. Now she will feel comfortable walking into that
Now she can
store.
shop in all of the
I
Whole
see.
Foods at midnight.
Well, multiple times Amira did say, no, I don't want that. No, I won't do this, because it'll make
Yeah.
it worse. Because she knows what will and won't escalate a situation.
Yep.
And all these white people are like, you
Yeah.
need to get him fired. And she's like, that will literally put me in danger.
Yeah, and they're not thinking
But
about
Please
that.
stop.
often, because that is often in those type of situations, like those allies are not thinking of the core group that they seemingly want to help. Like they are not thinking of them, they are not listening to them. They are so hell-bent set on this is the solution that we think works best in this situation, even though we do not have the experience, or we do not have the in-person experience to be able to speak to whether or not the solution is actually one that would work. But I think it will work, and so therefore I'm going to apply it to your situation, and I'm just not going to listen to you, kicking back or suggesting otherwise. And I think it just cuts across so many different forms of allyship, and it's wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but that's
Yeah.
why
for
the
one
white
group
savior
doesn't-
trope is
yeah.
like that, though, because
Yeah.
it's them coming into the situation and not actually being helpful. It's going, as the person of privilege, let me help you. I know what's best because I don't have to deal with this shit, so let me help you. And that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Well, often
Yeah,
what works
yeah.
for them doesn't work for other groups. Like for white people, sure, getting someone fired. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll solve the problem, because that was a one-off
for
reason.
you.
For us, it happens everywhere. So getting this one person fired is not going to do jack shit, because the next security guard they get right there could have the same fucking problem.
Yeah.
And it could backfire. Like how many times has stuff like that actually backfired on people of color? A lot.
A lot.
Well, yeah,
A
that
lot.
opens her up to all kinds of like harassment and things like that, because as we've heard multiple times over the last many years.
Yes.
So
many.
But like, yeah.
So
them always trying to save her. Like I can't find it right now, but I know I made a note, and I was like, she doesn't need saving. And it was like near the end where she's like, I've moved on. This doesn't fucking matter anymore. Like it's like in the back of my mind, 5 other things have happened since then. It's like it's okay, and like they're still like Alex, however you fucking say her name, and all of her friends are like, no, you're doing the right
Alex.
thing. Alex,
That,
you're
and that
doing the
was
right
so
thing.
weird.
Like, you're
That was
saving
the
her. You're the best thing that's ever happened to her.
Like-
she hasn't figured out her life. And I was like, she hasn't asked anyone to come and save her. Like, she literally was
Nope.
like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'm fine taking time to figure this out. And all these privileged people were like,
Mhm.
no, you're doing the right thing.
And not asking her what she actually needs.
No,
And
not
again,
once.
it's like peak performative.
Performative.
Yeah, that's like the peak of it, because I was like, what's the other chance? Anyway, because even like if you take it to like the most basic, I'm sorry, on say an issue popped up on Twitter or booktube in the comments or wherever, and you have a marginalized person saying, yo, this was racist or what you're doing is insulting, then inevitably you have a bunch of people who are not a part of that group in the comments going, that's fine. You don't have that right to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or the
And
ones that accept like apologies on behalf of, you know, the marginalized
Oh, that
person
always
or the
gets
person
me.
who is directly
Step back.
affected by it. And
Like,
you have the
step
person go like, I'm so sorry about what I did, blah blah blah. And you have somebody in the comments going like, oh, but it was no big deal what you did. Like, you know,
Right.
of course it was perfectly fine. I'm like, the audacity, how dare all the words keep cutting off because
The audacity.
rage, the audacity. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like the white voices on, I mean, we're all part of Book Twitter and BookTube and all the other maybe questionable decisions we've made on the internet. We're like, let's join this community. And I'm like, why did we do this? But like I feel like a lot of like the white voices either do that where they're like, oh, that's not a big deal, or I forgive you, or like just pushing all of not great things aside, or I feel like they're also the main part of like cancel culture, because like a marginalized voice will be like, I didn't like this was bad, and then all the white people come and they're like, let's cancel them, and like that's not what they wanted.
Really, what
they
didn't
want
to educate.
Yeah.
And like an apology, a little bit of change. Like they didn't want you to come in and literally push them off the internet.
But like this again goes back to getting people fired. Like that was
exactly
like
justice. The dynamic is like, oh,
I'm gonna get them fired from
it's
the
there. And I'm just like,
I want to see them experience consequences or punishment in this case, because it's always
change
punishment.
doesn't come that way.
Yeah.
Nope.
Because like now whatever other community because they were kicked out of ours, whatever community they join now, which is going to be inevitable, they're just going to be the same person.
They'll be the same person, and the chances are that they will join a more radical community. Like that is literally
somewhere where they're more accepted.
The progressive
for who
to
they
white
currently
supremacist pipeline is exactly that. Yeah. It's funny because like there will be situations where I'll be like, yeah, no, this person has messed up so many times, like with Rachel Marie. Like that was one of those things. Yeah, maybe driving them off the internet was a good idea, but a lot of the time it'll be like the first time that they've had an issue with that issue. And it
happens with a lot of authors, like they're like their debut book. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks that like none of the editors or publishers or beta readers like caught that. But it's also their first book. You were probably the first one that brought it to their attention, because like a lot of people do live a life of ignorance about at least one group in the world. But like,
yeah, I mean, to some extent, there is a responsibility on the author to do everything.
Oh, for sure.
Like a lot of what I know started with me wanting to educate myself about how to write people that were not me years ago. Yeah. At the same time, you can't expect them to be able to catch everything. So I think a lot of the time it depends on the level of the sin, I guess you could say. And how
like whether it looks like it was steeped in racism or if it was an honest like come out of ignorance.
I mean, usually you can sell out too.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
For sure. But
even if you can't, you can tell based on their response after it's brought up.
Oh yeah.
That's the
Whether
big
or
one
not
for
they
me.
get
It's like I can make
defensive.
assumptions as to why you thought that or why you said that, but rather than do that, let's educate you anyway, and then let's see what you say, because that's when I'll know. If you just get pissed off and start name calling, and you people always look for something, and now I'm like, no, fuck you, bye.
The reaction,
No,
no, that's
I
a really
always
good point.
approach stuff like that with skepticism. When it's like the first couple of times, I'll be like, okay, you have apologized. I'm gonna see what you do next. Like,
I mean, first time versus repeat offenses. Like,
well, like Alex E. Harrow, her first book, and like it was one of those things I could see what she was trying to do, and I understand why, like that was not her place and how she messed up. But I was like, okay, well, I liked the book. She seemed to have a good idea. We'll see the next book. The next book, she did a better job of staying in her lane. But she did not treat race at all well. And some of her word choices, I was just like, you should not be using that word so casually. Like, that shouldn't be in your main character's head. There are other contemporary terms you can use.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, bye. I
mean,
have another book to read.
That was an issue I had with Stephen King too. He does that a lot, and it irritates the shit out of me. Like, I can pick up any book of his and just like, I literally did this once, and I deleted the footage, and I wish I would not have. I just picked up one of the books, flipped it, kept it on scrolling, and then when I looked down, I was like, oh yeah, there's a slur, and I picked up another book, and there was another one, and it's like almost any book of his, like any person that you wanted us to look at as being the villain or just anti-hero, whatever, they use the N-word, they use the F-word, they were demeaning to somebody. It's like, you don't know how to make us not like this character other than just like making this giant caricature of a... That irks me.
Yeah, no.
That's some bad character writing, if anything.
Well, it wasn't that. She's in a fictional version of Salem. I'm like,
oh shit.
You could just use the word black. That was a word that they used at that time. I'm like, why?
The arguments when they're like, I was trying to be historically correct. It was just
fuck.
For some,
yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Thank you.
I always laugh.
I was trying to be historically
always
correct.
I don't like that. Immediately, like, just sends me into a fucking rage. That is the laziest excuse for anything I have ever fucking heard.
Red flag. Like, I'm just like,
And it's not even it's not just for racism. It's look at fucking Outlander. Oh my god, Outlander is the rapiest thing I have ever seen in my life. And the author, she's like, it's historically accurate. Were you born in 1812? Do you know? I don't think so. When you travel back to 1812 and you see people get assaulted every 4 seconds, then maybe I'll buy that shit. But otherwise, no. And when you are the only historical author doing so, lady.
And like, there are certain things you can put in a narrative to make a point, but I feel there's a way to do it. There's a way to handle it to some extent, and it has to have a greater meaning to the story than I'm just going to put this at the end of the book to make things worse for the main character. No.
Oh, it's for sure the handling. Because then, oh god, this is going to be the only time y'all catch me saying something nice about fucking whatever the fuck on the internet.
I'm sorry. I stopped reading after her second book for the Throne of Glass series because I was like, you didn't think about the fact that you're going to brutally murder your only black character. Goodbye.
So the reason that I actually liked the second book more was because of the way she handled one of those issues, or a handful of them. Because in the second, was it the second or the... No, it's the second one.
A Court of Misanthropy, you're talking about Tamlin, right?
Yeah, so you see the way, like, the characters have, like, this PTSD. Tamlin did, Feyre did, Breeze did. And I was like, everybody always skips over that. And they just magically live happily ever after. And I was like, okay, I can get with that. But that's it. That's the only nice thing I'll say.
Yeah. No, I did like how she kind of handled that, because she showed how trauma can inform our actions, and not everyone always chooses the right path. And I think that's what happened with Tamlin, is he had PTSD and did not deal with it in a healthy way, and he, instead of like dealing with it, took it out on the main character. I was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
But like,
it just turned into fuckery. It just turned into fuckery.
Noria, do you have anything to say?
No.
Oh my god.
Moving on.
Moving on. Yes. Okay.
No.
Is there anything else we want to talk about? We talked about how it ended and fake white allies. We talked about how poverty and healthcare and all of that affected Amira, and we talked about how Alex is an absolute dumpster fire of a human. Is there anything else we wanted to cover for the books?
I think I mean, there's a lot of major things to talk about, but like the last major thing for me is like fetishization of like
100%.
Because like Kelly 100%.
They
but
both did.
So did Alex. So I was just like
both of them actually. Both of them.
Yeah.
Both,
because I was reading some reviews after.
A hypocrite on top of all the many things that she already had slapped on. Because I'm like, girl, the exact thing you're accusing this man of is exactly the same thing you're doing.
So disgusting. I almost thought hers was worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I don't know. I don't know how
it was tough. Maybe it's because we got her
because
inner dialogue. We didn't get Kelly's inner dialogue. I'm sure that would have just been disgusting. But like, because we got Alex's, and like we could like see what she was like thinking, and I'm just like, why is this all like? Why are her thoughts disgusting me right now? And she's just like, oh my gosh, like the way she talked about her, it was like, I'm confused. Like, do you want to be her friend or do you want to fuck her? Like, I'm like, what do you want right now?
I think she was fetishizing the idea of having another Black best friend because she felt like if I can convince Amira that I am a good person, then obviously I am not racist.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was 100% the entire time about her and how she felt about herself. And rather than sitting with that and looking at it and maybe approaching Amira and going, oh, hey, am I meeting your needs in this job? She just was like, I'm just going to assume what she wants. And what she wants is to be my bestie.
Every thought that she had about her all stemmed from or circled back to how she felt about herself. Or how she looked, or just her
how
reputation.
It would come back or reflect on her.
Yes, everything was just 1,000% selfish, and that's why like I had struggled with it. So I was like, God damn it, really? Do I have to be in her head? Like, fuck, this is annoying the shit out of me.
No, I read it as an audiobook, and it was a very quick read the first time as an audiobook. This time, it's like I just want to set this woman on fire every other sentence.
Yeah, so I had a lot of problems with the audiobook that.
Yeah.
Probably hadn't a lot to do with the writing. I doubt it. But just Amira's voice, like this ghetto accent they gave her that was supremely over-exaggerated, just irked the living shit out of me. It irked the hell out of me. I was like, this is what made me think that a lot of effort went into appearances. Like, yes, the characters were performative, but the book itself also struck me as performative, which is odd because it was written by a Black person. But I double checked. I had to go Google it. I was like, "Are you sure she's Black?" Because I don't get that. This is written from a very not. Oh, I'm sorry. Mommy too loud.
No, there is not a lot about her on the internet, so I wasn't able to really look, but I do know, like, I did know she was Black, and I do know that, like, she's a writer. It's about as much as I was able to find.
Yeah. I struggled with that, and I even asked Nori, I was like, is she Black? You sure? And then I looked up the narrator, I was like, is she Black? Are you sure? Oh, yeah, she is. Okay.
Lauren is like, is everyone involved Black?
But I don't, like, it's got this weird, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just written. It doesn't sound like it was written by a Black person.
It felt like it was written for. It felt like it was written for a white audience.
A white audience.
Yes.
It felt like it was written for a very white audience, and I just.
But it felt like it was.
I was even telling Lauren. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Lauren, no, you can continue.
It was in the sense that it was.
Oh, I was
It
saying, I
sounds
was
like
about
it
to
was
say
so-
that I was even way
Our
talking
timing
about
sucks.
it.
You guys are cute.
Go ahead, Nori. I'm gonna mute because Zai's upset.
Ah,
Oh my god! Oh Lord, I swear, like the weather is just a delight.
yeah.
And now I've forgotten what I wanted to say.
We were talking about it seeming like a performative book. I would be interested to see what her upbringing is.
To see what?
I would be interested to see what her upbringing is and how she grew up. Like, 'cause that's not a definite thing, but based on what y'all are saying, I can
I was
definitely
like,
see
it
her.
felt very performative.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it more what the publishers wanted
Publishers
versus what?
wanted.
Not in that sense. It was. It almost like seems like she sat down and wrote it with the intent of like, okay, let me market this to white people and then beat them over the head with this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong.
Yeah.
But it also is like in the same sense, like very dumbed down. Like when you read Mickey Kendall's book, like there was nothing simple about it, and yet it wasn't difficult to see or difficult to read it and then go, okay, that's a good thinking point. When you think about the way I behave in those situations, it didn't have to be so like slapstick over the head with, okay, let me make this person absolutely disgusting so you see like you shouldn't be like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of what Alex did was like checking her phone messages. That went too far. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh,
like that.
And
the minute she did that, I was like, we've entered, like, this is what on earth this woman has lost her mind. Like that was at that point I was like, nope. And it was all that way to the very end.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I did tap my phone when it was like sleeping to like see if my messages would show. But my messages don't show until my phone sees my face or if I put in my code. So like,
do you have an iPhone or an Android?
I have an iPhone.
Okay.
I have mine set like that on purpose.
Yeah. I know there are some phones that you can see. You can
just
see
like what
the
they
messages.
say.
Yeah.
Mine just says one message or two message or
so that's a setting because my mom has an iPhone and hers, if you just touch it, it'll show her whole message.
Really?
Yeah, you can turn it on or off.
Because mine only ever shows like the first line, but it does not show the full message.
I see.
But,
yeah, no, my mom shows her whole message. Or the first couple lines.
Stalker lady. Like rabbit, like it's so funny because I was just saying that, like, Alex, if you would just sit down and have a conversation with this girl where you are open about the fact that like you want to get to know her better because you realize that you have not and you feel that that is not good of you to have done. Do that. And
but the relationship she was making with her was already based on lies. Like everything. Like at one point, Amira was like, "Why didn't she just tell me she was writing a fucking book? Like, why did she tell me it was a history book?"
like exactly what you say was a history book.
Like everything that Alex was like, "Oh, I'm opening up to her. I'm building this relationship." I'm like, "Yeah, but everything you're telling her are just blatant lies. Like that's what kind of relationship do you think you're gonna have?
Yeah,
like, she's gonna catch you in these lies sooner or later, anyways."
Yeah, that's not coming from like that place of being genuine again, right? It's just more so I have to double check and make sure that I am not racist. So I'm gonna be friends with this girl. So it's not a genuine friendship because it's not for a genuine reason.
And like I can relate with that from when I was like a teenager. But I eventually grew out of it because I learned.
And like just like the little things when she's like, "Oh, the Thanksgiving decorations. Now that like I'm seeing them through Amira's eyes, I just want to throw them all away." I was just like,
"Girl,
like indigenous people."
I didn't understand.
I was like, "What on earth?"
Like, and she did that. It wasn't just about like the Thanksgiving decorations. It was about like everything. She's like, "I'm looking at everything through Amira's eyes."
Which is not bad exercise to do, but also, like, that's definitely like going, wait, I know what I mean, but how is this going to sound if I say it this way?
But sometimes it was about like, do I seem too bougie to Amira? Do I need to do I need to appear poor? Like
none of it was about reducing
she can't know I have
Amira.
money.
It
Yeah.
was all about her looking good and dealing with this. Like, I got the sense that she's got this overwhelming feeling of white guilt, but she has not acknowledged that that is actually what's going on
She
here.
hasn't embraced that feeling quite yet. And so like her feeling towards like Amira can't know I have as much money as I do. She can't know. And I was just like, Amira doesn't give a shit. Like, the moment she walked into your house and saw your fucking chandelier, she already knew. Like,
I mean, I'm pretty sure she applied for the job in the first place. Like, that's not a middle class thing to have a fucking nanny.
No, it's really not. It's
No.
upper class.
When she said $90,000 isn't that rich, I was like, not 90,000, 900,000. I'm like, ma'am, I could retire on $900,000 right now.
Amira's like, I made $16,000 last year. It's fine. Like, that I don't know why it got to me, but it did. Where like, it was like she can't know. It was like, know what? She already knows.
Put it out. Day one.
It's like the equivalent of dumbing down, except you're pouring down. I don't know. Like, she's like, I need to appear poor, and then Amira will like me. It's like,
what is it with rich people and not wanting to look as rich as they are? They afraid we're gonna come at them with the guillotines?
No, I get it on like some level. Not that I agree with it. I get it from like, it's kind of like if you have a friend who had a miscarriage and their friend is like, I don't want to tell them I'm pregnant. So I see where she tried to make it like that, but as a person who's been on the poor side of it and the person who's lost a baby is like, I don't actually like, you're thinking about it too hard, kind of a thing. So I can see where you're trying not to offend me, but like, I'm not gonna cry because you have money.
But like sometimes it's like, oh, I want to make sure they're comfortable, but that definitely wasn't Alex.
No.
Because like you know, like your perfect example, like, you know, it's like, I want them to be comfortable around me.
Why is that?
But that was not.
The question is not, are you comfortable? The question is, are you safe? In my opinion, do you have
that's a perfect example? Yeah.
You know, if someone starts telling you about their day, are you going to start grilling them and like they have to educate you on why a microaggression is a microaggression, or are you able to just sit back and listen? And if you don't already know what's going on, Google that shit.
Yeah.
Right. Because if we're friends, no matter in different ethnicities and different sexualities and everything else, like, I should still be able to come to you as my friend and you just listen and not have to go, but why is that offensive? But why is this? But why is that? Like, I do still want to be able to just talk to my friend and not feel like you're a student or like you're friends with me so you can learn how to operate around Black people.
Yeah.
No, there are books in Google for that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good YouTube for that too. But
I loved Amira's like her like parting words to Alex with like how she's like, I'm leaving, but maybe you should make sure Briere knows that you love her. Okay, bye. I was like,
that
oh,
final scene with Briere where she almost went in to say something, I was just like, fuck.
Yeah.
That woman should not have had children at all. Like, we knew that,
but when she was just like, your daughter deserves more. Like, and I was just like,
did she listen? No. I loved when she was talking about how, or in her thoughts, she was talking about how she didn't like that Briere was given like glittery makeup and all of that, and that she wanted to make sure Amira knew that she and whatever his name was wanted Briere to be raised to think for herself. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't like listening to her when she's thinking for herself. You literally just had Amira skip something so she wouldn't ask you questions about a fish
that died.
Yeah.
Like, I like that bit. I was like, what?
How attached was this child to this fish? Like, I mean,
Like,
I've heard of
most
teachers
children, you
having
give them another fish, and they're like, "Okay, moving on."
Yeah.
Like,
like it's a fish. That just might be me.
it was just a conversation she didn't want to have.
Yeah, and you've got to be willing to have those conversations with your kids. But yeah, no.
Unless you're rich, and then you can make the nanny do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That.
Transferring that burden to the nanny instead.
So, like,
And how she was aggravated when Amira brought back a fish that looked a little different from the original fish.
so like that's a thing too that Mickey Kendall brought up in Hood
Yeah.
Feminism, where she talked about how, like, you'll judge the choices Black women make about their bodies and about raising their children, but when you don't want to deal with your kid, who the fuck do you give them to? Black nannies.
Yeah.
Which goes back to hundreds of years ago. Same shit all over.
Forever ago, yeah.
It goes into like the very, like, even in the introduction, that's one of the ones that I highlighted, where she's talking about, well, white feminists are only able to be feminists because they had women of color to give their children to.
Yep.
So
to do the things they didn't have time to do. So to raise your children, to cook for you, to clean your house, to do all of this stuff. So that makes me okay. The question: did anybody else get satire when they read at such a young age?
No, I think it's more kind of like a serious literary fiction kind of vein. I don't think there was. I don't know. It didn't strike me that.
The reason I asked is because the version that I had on the cover, the tagline says a satire about something something, and I was like, the fuck? That
interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't
like,
really get satire.
So like that. The reason I asked is because I'm still trying to make up my mind about the execution of the book and about if certain things were done on purpose or not. Like, because in the beginning, like, it just seems like the execution is just poor. But as we're talking about both books together, I'm like, okay, so were these parallels made like on purpose? Not obviously specifically with Mickey Kendall's book, but like, did you intend to draw out these points, or were you just grabbing at large stereotypes because they were easy?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the idea of who the book was written for kind of does play into that somewhat, because you shouldn't have to, but sometimes you do have to hit white people over the head with a brick to get them to understand.
And how it was kind of dumbed down. Like, she in her head, she may have been like, hey, this is all they'll understand.
So I honestly do not know, because I haven't looked into kind of the background of this. I just thought it was a really interesting comparison with Hood Feminism, which I've been wanting to read forever.
Okay. I'm
Somebody
sorry.
is not happy.
No.
It's all good. Okay.
Little guy.
Anything else? Noria, was there anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to either of the books?
Yeah, I think the only thing I wanted to add was still tying back to the way in which the writer wrote the story and exactly who she was writing it to. It was something I discussed with Lauren back when we were body reading it together. There's the scene where she had Alix's only black friend, Tamara, be the one to have that conversation with her about how she's the best thing to have ever happened to Amira's life. And I remember after I finished, like when I like listened to the last of that line, I like texted Lauren and I was just like, what on earth? Like, why? Of all the people to have like used to have those words said, why make it like the only black friend be the one to tell this white woman that she's the best thing to have ever happened to this black girl who both of you are convinced does not like have any plans for her life, you know? And
she's
then
also
once
in
again, I
that
was
insulated bubble.
Yeah.
Because
well, I kind of saw her as almost like a Candace Owens type character.
Yeah, this is when she's in the insulated bubble. So she sees Amira as needing help getting up out of the situation that she's currently in.
Yeah.
So she's not thinking of it as as a person, this is how a person should be treated. She's thinking of it as, here's this poor Black woman who, obviously she's not as well off as we are. So you're the best thing that ever happened to her because you're bringing her around money and influence and what have you.
You're handing her the bootstraps is what she's saying. Versus maybe we should improve it all. And I did anyways, that I remember that conversation, and it was an interesting choice on the author's part, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you read books like this, which is why I don't, I think, or when you write books like this, which is why I don't read them, you have to be even more careful about characterizations, and even coming down to if you created this diverse group of women, you have to be careful because of the tone of the book, which character you let say what and why, because it can ruin any point you're trying to make and steer it in a whole other way, and just you can't insert a tone deaf person there unless you did it for a specific reason,
purpose.
Yeah.
Or even to have there are ways to counter things like that in the narrative.
Yeah.
That you can make a point like that,
Yeah, but I think to do that, though, you need to have that person's point of view. It needs to be from their point of view as well. And there needs to be more than a very surface level understanding of those characters, because otherwise you just messed it all up.
Yeah. I also think it speaks to I don't think Alex was obviously Alex is, we see that she's telling Amira the rose-colored glasses version. She's also doing that with her friends, and we see that a lot. She's not fully honest with them either.
Well, the story she told about Kelly that she had in her mind, she just was this happened. She could have just moved on. No one would have known that didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
That happened at all.
And she knew he didn't get the letter at that point too.
Yeah.
Yep. Here it is.
She's
a
always
satire of polite liberal prejudices. Yeah.
Satire.
I mean, I got polite liberal prejudices. I did not get the satire.
Yeah, I'm hung up on the satire part.
I feel what was that movie? I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Princess Bride.
I got that, but I was okay, maybe I'm just going into it with predetermined thoughts and feelings, because I usually don't like to read this kind of book, but I saw satire and I was I'm not really getting satire. Maybe it's just me. That's why I asked.
No, do not have a lot of experience with satire outside of what I did for school for theater. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say yes or no because I don't know the nuances, but I did not get satire from it either.
Yeah, but that's a key word, right? Nuances. Satire has nuances, and this book really didn't.
So okay, it sounds like we are winding down. Do y'all have anything going on your channel? We'll wait for Noria to come back before we fully go, but anything going on that you want to plug for your channel before we go?
No, not yet.
You're working. Listen, you just finished growing an entire human and you're still trying to keep him alive. You get a
and also trying to get out of this country, because I will be going back to the States here shortly. And so this one little area is the only kind of put together area of my house right now. It is a shit show. The rest of it, there's baby furniture, baby stuff, and boxes everywhere. So we're getting ready to go home. So
no judgment. Off camera is a disaster on either side of me.
I'm also getting ready to move back to the States, and I can attest to my life being a mess around me.
Mm-hmm. There's stuff everywhere. And then I didn't know how he was going to act. So right now there's his bassinet and his swing and his mama is over there, and I have food all around me because I'm breastfeeding. I'm always fucking hungry. But get ready to go back to the States, and my hope is when I get back to the States that I'll get my channel back up and running. Yeah. And then also start a personal channel with this little stink bug. So that's all I got planned for this moment. But I'm taking every inch of willpower that I got.
Girl, take your time.
It will be a while.
No rush.
But it'll be fun because me and Noria have some projects we want to do together when I get my life together.
Does it ever really truly happen?
No, never. Never. But it sounds nice to say it like it's gonna happen.
True.
Makes me
I've been
feel a
telling-
little better.
I've been telling myself that since I graduated from college. That was 12 years ago. And I don't even have it.
Relatable.
So
I told myself that when I came out here. I told myself that when I got here. I told myself that getting ready to go home, and it's like, stop lying. Damn.
But we have to keep telling ourselves that.
Yeah.
It's like I need to go
otherwise-
to work towards, so I don't let it all just completely unravel.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Here we are.
All right,
Oh.
Sarah, do you have anything on your channel coming up?
I don't think so. Nothing in particular. I'm just gonna keep putting out my Japan content until I leave, and then I'll dive back into like the booktube content after I return. Nori and I also have things planned.
Yay!
So in case Noria doesn't return, apparently she has plans with everyone. It's fine. But yeah, so Japan content for the next maybe 2-ish months, and then I'll get back to like the regular, I guess, booktube content with my fun artistic twists on said content
Yay!
per usual. But
Ha.
yeah,
Oop, hold on. I've got
Noria,
it's waiting for the mic and camera or the microphone to. There we go.
Noria.
Right. Noria, do you have anything you want to plug while you're here for the like 5 seconds we have you?
Okay.
Oh,
Damn it!
again. Like
Well, Noria has kind of newish content on her channel right now. It's not just book content. She's
Yes.
also embracing her other nerdy sides. One Piece, other
One
anime. You know, maybe some manga here in the future.
Is she back? I think I hear her. Oh yeah, there she is.
Are you here? I'm plugging your
I
channel.
can hear you. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Like I
Trying my
said,
best.
I'm exploring a lot of things. So manga, anime. At the moment,
Manga, anime.
at the moment.
At the moment. we got you.
but
All right. Wait. Maybe we don't bless the rains this time.
Yeah, really. What you can do is send it over here because it's 90 degrees with no air conditioning. You just get up.
Yeah,
Just get
no.
Japan entered rainy season, so it's exactly what it sounds like.
I'm
I
in
miss the
Florida, so
rain.
we get to walk outside and the air is wet. Oh, your face,
boy.
that was funny. But we're not getting a lot of rain, which would be nice because then things would cool down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So
That doesn't happen
okay.
in Japan.
No,
It
it
rains
doesn't,
and then it gets hotter.
it doesn't rain here. It kind of does like Washington does, where it rain a little bit. It drizzles mostly. Not
Ooh,
fun.
Noria, is that you?
Is Noria back?
yeah.
Okay. Any last words from you, Noria, before I close us out?
At this rate, I'm just
Damn
About right.
it.
Uh,
The censorship is real today.
I know. Apparently.
Hmm.
Anyways.
Noria, leave it in the comments.
Yeah, if you want to
so we
leave it in
can
the
see
comment,
it.
you can, and I can put it on the screen real quick. But
It's funny. Last time I had a live with Noria, we FaceTimed and then I showed my phone to the screen.
oh my god, that's funny.
Oh, Noria.
I am a terrible host. I completely forgot to put everyone's channels in the description, but they will be in the description in like 10 minutes. Okay, one last chance, Noria.
No, you can't laugh.
Enjoy
Takes
Comic
time.
Dramaland, and I'm telling you, IQ is the best sports manga out there. I think I got it all out. Oh no.
Okay.
sorry.
All right, in that case, thank you all for joining me. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see y'all later when we will talk about more wordy